Hey YouTube family, your girl is back with you guys. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Lacey Danelle. This is Growing Up Christian. We are doing some Bible talks over here. Let's get into it. We don't want to waste time. Remember, always talk to me in the comments about anything that we talk about and pick up the word for yourself. But y'all, let's get into it. So we're gonna go first to it's gonna be 2 Samuel. Let's see, we're gonna start at chapter 3. So 2 Samuel chapter 3, that's where we're gonna go at first, right? Now we're talking about Joab. Joab was the commander of David's army. And a little bit of a backstory. I'm gonna summarize stuff, y'all, but y'all pick up your word and read these things for yourself. I was kind of drawn to Joab because of certain things. He was the commander of David's army, but he also was, I would kind of say, like a friend to David. And he never, I would say he always made sure he pulled David up when he felt like he was doing something wrong, or when he felt like David wasn't doing what he was supposed to do per se. Of course, we know David had Nathan the prophet who had came to him with everything with Bathsheba and stuff, but we are going to talk about Joab. So a backstory with him being the commander of David's army. He also had two brothers. I'm going to try to pronounce these names, okay? So bear with me. He had a brother named Asahel and Abishai. Of course, they were also part of David's army. So we know how everything went down with Saul and David becoming king. So even after Saul had died, he still had people, his family and people of his house, and they kind of didn't want David to be king. So this guy, Abner, he was part of Saul's house. He was with Saul's other son. He was there for a minute. He was against David being king, but finally, after certain things, he came and he was like, okay, Saul's son that he was with actually accused him of something. And then he was like, okay, he heading over to David. So eventually, before that had happened, of course, again, they were at war, the two houses, Saul's house and David's house. And while they were at war, Abner ended up killing Joab's brother, Asahel. And, of course, Joab and his other brother, Abishai, was caught like, hey, what? No. But once Abner had made peace with David, Joab and his brother found out, and they didn't appreciate it. They of course went to David and stuff, and they were like, okay, no, we not doing this type of vibe. But they went behind David's back and they ended up killing Abner. Now when that happened, David was like, he told God, like, I don't know about this. He didn't, which David didn't know. He's like, I don't know, and to have no part of this. God is going to deal with Joab and his family with everything that he did and all that stuff. So that's like, go back a little bit, but as I said, you'll read about Abner's death in 2 Samuel 3. Pick up the word, y'all. I'm not going to read it because it's a bit much, but I'm just letting you know kind of a backstory of what happened. You can read that there. But that was one of the things that Joab did. I didn't like it, but as I said, we're going to get into some other things. So now we're going to go to 2 Samuel 14. Now, in a previous video, I did talk a little bit about this right here. Now, David, of course, he had many sons. One of his sons were Absalom. He had a son named hold on, y'all. Sorry about that. Let me make sure I pick up first. Okay, he had a son named Amnon who raped their sister Tamar. He was in love with her. He wanted her. He raped her. All that stuff. But Tamar was Amnon's like half sister, but Absalom's sister, because they shared the same mom and dad. You know how we get. But anyway, there goes that. So Joab, after everything had happened and Absalom fled because now he had killed his brother, he fled. He was in another country, but it broke David's heart that Absalom wasn't there. Eventually, Joab saw the grief that David was going through for his son. He was like, okay, he set this up with a lady going in to talk to David using a story. David said what he said, and then, David was like, he wants his son to come back. He's welcome to come back. So he was like basically open arms with Absalom coming back, even though he did what he did. So again, that's going to be 2 Samuel 14. And this is where I had mentioned in the previous videos, again, just one of the things God did for us, what she says here. So I want you guys to make sure that you go ahead, read the story, check out the video. I'm going to try to remember to tag it right here, what I'm talking about. We're not going to go into that today, but that's what Joab did for David. Okay, now once David and Absalom had reconciled, a while after, I don't know, I guess you can say Absalom got a big head. I don't know what to call it, y'all, but of course now he wanted to be king, so he went declaring he's king. David had to flee from his own son Absalom, right? And again, with Joab being in his army, he ended up having to go to war with Absalom, because now Absalom had his followers, his army, whatever. So we're gonna go to 2 Samuel 18. Hold on, y'all, let me pull it up here. We're gonna go to there, and just, as I said, just pick up and read your word. I'm gonna probably read a little bit of something from here. But anyway, while they were at war, Absalom had went out, with his men, of course, into battle. He ended, because of his hair, the Bible says that Absalom had nice hair, kind of, how they were describing people in the Bible. He had nice flowing hair and stuff like that. While in battle, out in the battlefield, I guess, or in the forest, the woods, I don't know what you want to call it, but he ended up getting entangled in one of the trees because of his hair. So, even though David was at war with Absalom, he had told the men, don't kill him for his sake. But anyway, when one of the men saw what happened to Absalom, they went back and they told Joab what had happened. So he was like, I'm not going to kill David's son, because when he find out, you're going to be the first person to abandon me. You're not going to stand up with me because I killed the king's son. So at that point, Joab was kind of like, you know what? I ain't got time for this. He went out, he saw Absalom tangled, and he went ahead and he killed Absalom and was like, it is what it is. So some men went back, they told David what had happened. And of course, now David is mourning his son. Even though his son was trying to kill him, he mourned for his son. But, Joab was like, we ain't got time for that. Now, when you hop over to 2 Samuel 19, of course, David is mourning, and he mourning for his child. But Joab went in, it says, okay, let's start from the beginning. So now it says, word soon reached Joab that the king was weeping and mourning for Absalom. As all the people heard of the king's deep grief for his son, the joy of that day's victory was turned to sadness. So now everybody was rejoicing because, okay, they defeated Absalom, and now they heard that David is mourning. So now they're like, what? Everybody becoming sad. They crept back into the town that day, and though they were ashamed and had deserted in battle, the king covered his face with his hands, and he kept on crying, oh my son Absalom, oh my son Absalom, my son. So Joab went to him and he was like, we saved your life today, and the lives of your sons and daughters, and your wives and concubines, yet you act like this? Which in Joab had to understand that was still the man's son, but I do understand what he was saying, because Absalom was to the point where he would have killed David, his father. He would have killed the rest of his siblings, maybe the as he mentioned, the wives, the concubines, everybody else. So, would you have rather lost probably your life and everyone else's life, or just his life being lost? So Absalom said, yet you act like this, making us feel ashamed of ourselves. You seem to love those who hate you and hate those who love you. Which in David really didn't hate anybody, because we know even with Saul, when Saul was trying to kill him, even when David had the opportunity to do so, he didn't. But I did like that Joab was like, look, you got to look at the bigger picture here, David. It would have been our lives or just his life. And of course, those who found what we talking about, Absalom, right? Joab was like, it seems that if Absalom had lived and all of us had died, you would be pleased. Now go out there and congratulate your troops, for I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out, not a single one of them will remain here tonight. Then you will be worse off than before. So at that point, David gathered himself. He went out, he talked to the people. But again, I just like that, as I said, Joab had to understand that was David's son. But he was like, I understand, like, dude, what are you doing? It would have been us dead, him alive. So you would have rather all these lives over here lost than the one life of that son lost. And that's what kind of made me look at Joab even more, because again, and then he was a man, David was a warrior. Of course, we know they're warriors. So, when you go into battle, you sometimes just have to have these blinders on, and it don't matter who it is. If you're at war, you're at war. But I just like that he didn't let David sulk and depress the men who just put their lives on the line for you. And now it's like, well, we tried to defend the king and we understand that's his son, but we thought he would enjoy this defeat that we defeated who was coming up against us. So that's where I was like, okay, I was like, Joab, all right, Joab, I see you. So that was that. And then, hold on, y'all. We are going to go into, I'll say, let's go into, and there's more. As I said, pick up your word, y'all. So then First Chronicles is another one that kind of pulled me in with Joab, because again, it's like Joab never used to let David be with the foolishness at all. And I just, he did some things, but he was like, he used to be on top of it. So this was where David takes a census, and I don't know what David was thinking at this point. Based on the NLT, it says Satan rose up against Israel and caused David to take a census of the people of Israel. That's what the word says. So, Joab, he telling Joab and stuff, now take a census. And Joab is like, okay, may the Lord increase the number of his people 100 times over. But why, my Lord the king, do you want to do this? Are they not all your servants? Why must you cause Israel to sin? Yeah, this is why I was liking Joab, because Joab, as I said, he was the commander of the army. Yes, he did what he had to do. Again, I feel like he was a friend to David, and he was that friend that would not let David get away with his foolery that he was doing. He used to call him out, be like, what is wrong with you? What are you doing? We got stuff to do. Why are you doing this? But with David being king, of course, David was like, take the census. And so Joab was like, okay, he went, he counted the men. But I like where it says, after he did the count of all who could handle a sword in Israel and in Judah, I like where it says in verse 6, First Chronicles 21, verse 6, it said, but Joab did not include the tribes of Levi and Benjamin in the census, because he was so distressed at what the king had made him do. And then in verse 7, it says, God was very displeased with the census, and he punished Israel for it. All right. So, as I said, go ahead and read your word. I gave y'all the scriptures. I'm going to try to tag them in the description box. But kind of tell me in the comment section how you feel about Joab. As I said, I just realized and noticed that Joab was the type of person, he did not let David be, like, he called David out. He never let him, he didn't let him sulk about Absalom, because he's like, look, we just put our lives on the line. Your men did what they had to do for you, stuff like that. Of course, he did some things, but, being a warrior, I understand some of the stuff that he did per se. And then even here with the census, he called David out again. Even before everything went down with Absalom, he saw how David grieved for his son, being away from him at the time, and he tried to get them to reconcile. And I just like that relationship that he did have with David. Okay, so I just wanted us to talk about that a little bit, make some pointers. You guys read, tell me again in the comments what you pick up when you read this right here. But that is going to be it for this video. I hope that you guys enjoyed. Sneak peek into the next video, we're going to talk about what happened after David said he sinned by doing this census, because I did enjoy this too. But that is it, y'all. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying your girl. And remember, as always, God loves you. I love you too. I will see you guys in another video. Bye.